Let's see if we can, yeah, and there we are. Welcome to Hoptown Hoppers TV. Getting an early start tonight, so that's why the stream is just now popping up. But the Hoptown Hoppers taking on the Fulton Railroaders, and Stephen Bell's up to bat. Once he bats, I'll give you the starting lineup for the Hoppers. And a strike thrown right away. Again, I want to say sorry for the kind of prompt start to talk here for the game, but we are getting an early start as Bell fouls that one off to make it an 0-2 count. Still trying to, as Bell hits that one to the second baseman, who will make the play at first base, and he does for the first out of the game. And I'll quickly go through the batting order for the Hoppers tonight. We just saw Stephen Bell lead it off, the center fielder, and then now we're seeing Artem Logvanov at shortstop. Then Luis Vergara at left field. Dom Oliverio is your designated hitter. Carter Hood, second base, Robert Estrada is right field. Luis Villalba is your catcher. Miggy Villalobos in first base. Gavin Baxter at third base, and your pitcher tonight is Brady Ginnivan. Outside wild pitch straight away to Logvanov for a ball to get his day started. And I was just about to say, I'm also trying to get the batting order down for the Railroaders as well, as that one's low. I will say I have a pretty bad angle on the plate tonight. I can see the width pretty well, the plate, but as far as height goes, I'm way above the plate, so not going to be able to really tell you if those are balls or strikes based on height. But that's 3 straight balls thrown to Logvanov as he threatens to walk here in the top of the first inning. And Logvanov will watch that one go by for a strike on the 3-0 count. So now a 3-1 count for Logvanov. And if you see some folks walking in front of the camera tonight, that's because the way this area is set up, we have to set it up low. Logvanov with a fly ball to third base there in infield. And will be caught, and the out's made. So 2 outs, back-to-back batters out there for Hoptown. Like I was saying, the camera, the home plate camera is sitting on the stands tonight, whereas I'm up in the press box. It's the only way to be able to use it. Not a ton of space up here. So if you see some folks walking in front of that camera, that's why. And on our other camera, where there's a fan in the way, there's a strike to Vergara. And by fan in the way, I don't mean a Railroaders fan. I mean a physical fan, like hanging from the ceiling. You can see it right there in the bottom right corner. So just some obstacles, nothing over the top. Vergara swings that one, will be popped up foul, but the play is able to be made, and that's 3 up, 3 down for the Hoppers to get today started. And Vergara will sit, and we will head to the bottom of the first inning, where the Railroaders will come up to bat for the first time today, and we will be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers TV. We are back here in the bottom of the first inning, and leading off for the Railroaders will be Tassos Foster, the shortstop for Fulton. Pitching tonight, I already mentioned it once, but I'll say it again here. On the mound is Brady Ginnivan. Can't see him too well, and especially because he's tall. So you're going to be seeing about the bottom half of Brady tonight on the mound, the legs only. You might be able to see some more whenever he gets on the finish with a pitch and approaches the bottom of the mound. First pitch there is called a ball. But yeah, we couldn't, again, that can't do too much with these camera angles tonight just because of the, situation we're in out here. But definitely not the worst. As that pitch is straight down the middle for a strike and a 1-1 count to Foster. And that pitch is fouled off by Foster. Will hit the top of the building here and be a 1-2 count to him. I believe this is the third time the Hoppers have taken on the Railroaders this season, and I think the Hoppers lost here, I think, and then won at home. So a 1-1 tied series between these teams. Pretty similar season records as well, as that ball is just inside for a 2-2 count to Foster to even things up. I think the Hoppers are 11-15 on the season. The Railroaders 13-13. So very similar records. Neither of these teams fighting to be the top of their division. That pitch, a strike and a strikeout for the first out of the inning. And we're trying to fix this camera just so that you can see Brady a little better, but the first one there, or that was actually the second pitch. So 1-1 count now for Ginnivan, and this is Bennett Detrude, the center fielder, at the plate. And they're going to say he went there on the check. I didn't think he went too far, but they're going to call him. So a 1-2 count now, one out on the board. And that was probably an inside pitch, check swing. I didn't really think he went too far, but went far enough to get the attention of the umpires, and I say he did. So looking for a second strikeout here is Ginnivan. He won't get it. That hit well towards left field, but Luis Vergara will come up with it and get the second out of the inning. I think in the bottom, or after this inning's over, I'm going to run around to this camera and see if I can get it to look a little better. I want to have it to where it's somewhat how it was on the plate, but a little bit higher so that you can see Brady better when he's standing on the mound. You can kind of see him when he comes down, but that's not good enough. First pitch there, fouled directly behind and on top of the building for a 0-1 count. This is Bennett Detrude. No. That was Bennett Detrude. This is Garner Anderson, the center fielder. Left fielder. Excuse me, I'm all over the place. And that is a swing and a miss for an 0-2 count to Anderson. And another swing and a miss will sit down the Railroaders. 2 strikeouts there for Ginnivan. And we will return in just a moment as the Hoppers come back up to bat and see their 4 through 6 hitters up first. And we will be right back with Hoptown Hoppers TV. We are back here in the top of the 2nd inning, and I'm a little out of breath. I ran a quick sprint to get over to the camera, and yeah, that looks better. So top of the 2nd inning here, and this is Dom Oliverio at the plate. And a strike thrown right away there. The pitcher tonight for the Railroaders is Seth Creasy. That's a high pitch for a ball. One count to Oliverio. And he'll hit that one foul directly over the building, and that's a 1-2 count to Dom, who over the past few days hasn't really looked like himself at the plate. Been one of the better hitters on this team, but been battling some strikeout issues. Hopefully today he'll get ahead of that. And he gets a grounder to the shortstop, who throws to the first and beats Oliverio there, so an out, but gets it in play. So that's a positive sign there, as that'll be the first out of the top of the 2nd, and it'll bring up Carter Hood. So far for the Hoppers, we're 4 up, 4 down through the first 4 batters here in this game. That's an inside no. He's going to call it a strike. I may have been a little high. Hard to tell on height, like I said, from where I'm sitting, but looked inside for sure. Called a strike. Good speed. And that is hit well towards left field. Not well enough, as the left fielder will sneak in and grab the ball for the 2nd out of the inning. Carter Hood will sit down, and that will bring up Robert Estrada. Had a big home run in yesterday's game. Probably the biggest offensive moment in yesterday's game. It was a pretty exciting one through and through. Hoppers were able to get that win 12-11 over the Bowling Green Pistons. And Robert Estrada trying not to be the 6th man to go down in this game so far for the Hoppers, as he'll watch a strike go by there. And a pitch will go low and lost by the catcher for a ball. 1-1 count for Estrada. And that pitch is a ball. So 2-1 now for Estrada, as he may be No, Logvinov was also ahead in the count earlier, so Estrada, one of 2 batters so far to get ahead in the count. And he'll watch that one go by for a strike. So I'm going to assume, because that one looked inside from where I'm sitting too, that those pitches that look inside to me are probably good. So I'll remember that throughout this game. And that one's definitely high as the catcher has to stand up for it. A full count, 3-2. Now with 2 outs to Robert Estrada, who is on his final strike and the team's final strike in this second inning. And he'll swing and foul that one directly into the dirt and leave the count where it is. And the pitch here from Creasy is hit well but foul by Robert Estrada. And I will mention, and you may be able to tell here, it's hard to tell on this angle, but the right field here is incredibly close. It's actually, and they have a high wall, or a high net, should I say, as the Fulton Fire Department is directly on the other side of that right field, so very close right field wall. And that's an outside pitch to walk Estrada, and he does. Robert Estrada will walk and will be the first runner on base for the Hoppers today. In fact, he's the first runner on base for either team in this game. And this is Luis Villalba, the catcher, at the plate now. Watches that one go inside for a ball. 1-0 the count to Villalba, who for the majority of the season batted left-handed, has been batting right-handed recently. A switch hitter for the Hoppers. Probably splitting it up month by month if I had to guess. A lefty for June, righty July. And that is a strike called. Looked like a tad bit outside, but Villalba will watch it go past him. 1-1 the count. And that ball is in the dirt. And Estrada will stick around at first base, and Villalba will find himself ahead in this one, 2-1. The count with 2 outs on the board and runner at first base. Not a super advantageous position for Hoptown, but better than nothing, as Villalba there will swing and miss, and the 2s go wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs here in the top of the second for Luis Villalba. And the pitch there is in the dirt outside and a little loose for another full count. So back-to-back batters now seeing full counts from Creasy. Creasy yet to strike out a batter, but the first 4 batters for the Hoppers all sat down on outs. I believe 2 flyouts and 2 outs at first, and that is another walk low in the dirt. So 2 full count walks will put a runner in scoring position for the Hoppers and bring up Manuel Miggy Villalobos, the first baseman. And they have a promotion out here, as there's, oh my, 2 little ones actually climbed up the left field fence and were sitting on the fence in left field. Wow. Straddling the fence in left field. And the umpires will slow the game down to make sure they get down safely. I was just about to mention Manuel Villalobos. They have a promotion out here where the batter with the lowest batting average in the lineup, which I'm not sure if it's Villalobos or Logvinov. It's probably one of those 2 if I had to take a guess. I don't know the stats very well. So he'll throw a ball straight to Villalobos to get his day started. But I guess it's Villalobos with the lowest batting average in this lineup. If he strikes out today, the Railroaders fans here will have beer for $3 instead of $5. So very important for this strikeout here for Fulton if you're a Fulton fan. 1-0 the count here to Villalobos. And he'll step off and take time. Runners on second and first, but there are 2 outs on the board. And that pitch is swung on and fouled right into the dirt. And Villalobos will go ahead and give it back to the pitcher himself. So a 1-1 count to Miggy. One counts and runners on second and first, 2 outs on the board. And that pitch is framed well. It's a tad bit low, but definitely down the middle as far as left to right is concerned for a 1-2 count now to Villalobos. And a strikeout to Villalobos. And the strikeout there will get a $3 beer for the Fulton Railroaders tonight. How about that? So we will return in the bottom of this same inning with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball and Hoptown Hoppers TV as the Railroaders come up to bat for the second time tonight. We will be right back. And here we are in the bottom of the second inning. Sorry for not changing that on your scoreboard. Bottom of the second inning, Jackson Garrett, number 17, the first baseman for Fulton, will be up to bat. And the first pitch is swung on and missed for a strike. The second pitch here from Brady Ginnivan, who you can see a little bit better now, is going to be fouled off left side for an 0-2 count to Garrett. And yeah, that camera angle, we're just at the top of Ginnivan's head now, so a tad bit better there for the Ginnivan family trying to watch Brady pitch. And that is going to be hit very well. And if I had to guess, it's going into the fence. It does, but it bounces off. And the Fulton Railroaders field here, so interesting. If it hits that netting above the right field wall, it's in play if it drops back in. And so what would have been a double on pretty much every other field is only a single here. And if that had have hit the net and dropped behind the wall, it would have been a home run. So the gap between a single and a home run here is very thin, as there's now a runner on first base for the Railroaders. He'll be the first runner today for them, as that pitch is inside. This is Jimmy Manzella, the right fielder, at the plate now. And that pitch is hit well towards the shortstop. Logvinov will make the play for the first out here in the bottom of the second. And now we see Jackson Norris, the designated hitter, come up to the plate. A runner on first base and only one out on the board. And here is the first pitch to Norris, and it's right down the middle for a strike. 0-1 the count to Norris. Let's go watch that one go by. And that pitch is hit well right past the second baseman, and it'll make it to Robert Estrada in the outfield very quickly. Very shallow outfield. You basically have another infielder here tonight with how close this right field wall is to the infield. And so now we have two singles to have runners on first and second for the Railroaders. Both of those singles coming from a Jackson Garrett and Jackson Norris. And now Tanner Carranza, the catcher, is up to bat. And there's a ball to Carranza right out of the gate. The second pitch to Carranza here, as Ginnivan checking the runner at second, is fouled directly behind home plate. So a 1-1 count to Carranza. One out on the board and runners at second and first. The Hoppers had runners at second and first in the top of this inning, but had two outs and were unable to bring anyone in. Ginnivan here trying to leave these runners where they are. And that pitch is high and outside for a ball, so a 2-1 count now to Carranza. The next pitch here is a little better, as that one's straight down the middle for a strike to Carranza, and it will even up the count at 2 apiece. 2 strikes and 2 balls, or should I say 2 balls, 2 strikes to Carranza. And that one is a pretty pitch in the bottom right corner. And Carranza thought about it. He let the bat go off, but a strikeout there as Carranza sits down and Ginnivan picks up his 3rd strikeout of the day. And this is Aiden Cloud, the 3rd baseman for Fulton, at the plate now, the 8-hole hitter. And he'll immediately foul one off, almost straight up, but it will come down foul. 0-1 count straight away to Cloud. And the pitch here to Cloud is hit well, but it's fouled. And it's going to drop in the Hoppers bullpen. So back-to-back fouls from Cloud will leave him a little stranded in the count at 0-2 with 2 outs on the board. But runners here in second and first base, for Fulton, as they're not in a bad spot. 0-2 count here. Ginnivan trying to leave the runners where they are. And that is hit another foul almost to the exact same spot on the other end of the field near the Fulton bullpen. So 0-2, the count remains the same. Cloud fighting to keep this inning going for Fulton. And Ginnivan staring down the runner at second. Will pitch that one in. And it's pretty, but it's a little bit inside for a 1-2 count. And it was a pretty pitch, but just did not come all the way in like it was probably intended to, and finished a little inside. So 1-2 now the count. 2 outs on the board and runners at second and first base, both of which reached on a single to right field. And that is another foul. That one like a half swing. Coach E.J. Davari tries to run out of the dugout and field it. Actually beat to it by Reed Douglas. So Coach Davari fails to field that one, and the count remains at 1-2. 2 outs on the board, runners at second and first. This is Aiden Cloud, the third baseman, at the plate as Brady Ginnivan looking to go for his 4th strikeout already in the second inning. And he will not get it, and that one is well hit, and it's fair. All right, on the left field line, and they will score the first run of the game as Garrett at second base will run it in, and Norris from first will make his way to third, and that's a big, big double from Aiden Cloud, who was sitting on an 0-2 count on the first 2 pitches of that at-bat, and ended up getting a big double on a fair ball on the left field line, and that will immediately give the Railroaders an early advantage in this game. A good hit there from Cloud, almost perfect, a couple inches left, and that's foul. This is a ball thrown right away here, and that ball was thrown to Drew Baskin, the second baseman and 9-hole hitter for Fulton. So that run scores after 2 singles and a double. And the Hoppers actually lucky to not have that runner from third come in. There's a good chance he would have made it. There's an outside pitch for a ball. No, called a strike. That was an outside pitch. I was so certain. I looked down at my computer and immediately counted that as a ball. But they'll call it a strike. Speed was nice, but I think the positioning was outside. Strike nonetheless, and the count is 1-1. That pitch, no doubt about that one, as it swung and missed. So 1 ball, 2 strikes, the same count that double was hit on for the last batter. And 2 outs, 2 runners in scoring position at second and third, as Fulton's trying to tack some more runs onto their early lead here. And they won't, as Ginnivan gets another swing and a miss there and a strikeout, his 4th of the game, but not before Fulton walks away with 2 hits and a double and a run scored. 2 runners left on base, though. And we will move to the top of the 3rd inning and be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball, as you will see the 9, 1, and 2 hitters step back up to the plate. We will be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers TV. here we are in the top of the third inning. Leading things off for the Hoppers here will be Gavin Baxter, the 9-hole hitter for the Hoppers today, the third baseman for the Hoppers. Trying to get something going here in the third inning for Hoptown. And he'll watch that one go high for a ball, and the catcher also not able to get the grab on it. And Creasy has already walked 2, only struck out 1, but other than that has done a pretty good job to maintain these hitters. No hits allowed so far. Infield working. And I think the left fielder has also caught 2. And Gavin Baxter will watch that one go super inside. Hits a bit of a limbo maneuver, backs out of the way. And he'll see a 2-0 count right out of the gate. And that one will be a foul for Baxter, as trying to let that bat go loose a little bit. Would have been an inside ball for a 3-0 count. Instead, it hits off the handle of his bat and will be a foul. 2-1, the count now to Baxter, who's leading things off here for the Hoppers. The 9-hole hitter after this will be back at the top of the lineup. And Baxter watches that one, and it's called for a strike. Looked a tad bit high, but it's hard to read the height of some of these pitches from where I'm sitting. Can't see the dip all that well from up here, so it may have dropped in. 2-2 the count to Baxter, and that's definitely outside and in the dirt. So another full count here for Creasy, who's seen, I believe, 3 already in this game in the first 3 innings, 2 of which both got walked in the last inning. Now Baxter seeing a full count from Creasy. And he hits that one, and it's going to drop. And no, yes, it did drop. Good hit and an excellent effort there from the center fielder. And I'll try to get that name, Bennett Detrude. Did not come up with it, but a diving play did stop the ball. And for a second there, it looked like he came up with it. I think he landed on top of it. So a good effort from Detrude, but Gavin Baxter will get the first hit of the day for the Hoppers. And that's a single, a deep single at that, but a single nonetheless. And I think Baxter kind of slowed up a little bit, not knowing if that ball was caught as well. And so now we are back at the top of the lineup, and Stephen Bell is at the plate for a ball there. So a 1-0 count to Bell, who flew out in his first at, no, I believe he was thrown out in his first at bat today. And he will immediately hit that one towards the first baseman, who unable to grab the ball and make the double play. So Baxter will advance to second, but Bell is out at first base. Here's Artem Logvinov, who flew out, I believe, at his first at-bat to left field. Maybe it was either left field or third base. I know there was one or the other, but I think he was at a 3-1 count when that happened as well. So someone to get on base here possibly, is that's a pretty pitch from Creasy for a strike. 0-1 the count. I think Logvinov even thought that was going to come at him, and it slides back into the strike zone for a strike. An 0-1 count here to Logvinov. And that is another pretty pitch from Creasy, who has not been incredibly consistent with his pitches, but 2 very nice off-speed pitches. I believe a slider and a sinker there from the pitcher. And he will watch that one drop in the dirt. 1-2 now the count to Logvinov. One-two count to Logvinov, and Gavin Baxter at second base, 1 out on the board. And he'll watch that one, and it's a strikeout for Creasy. I believe his second strikeout of the day, and yes, his second of the day. Logvinov will sit down on the slightly outside pitch, but probably a strike. And now Luis Vergara is up to bat. 2 outs on the board and a runner at second base. Vergara has good power in that bat, and I think he was thrown out in his first. Actually, he may have made it at the left field. He may have been the one that made it out the left field. And he'll immediately strike one at the third baseman. Baxter will advance late, and the ball gets loose. Baxter is going to run home, and he does. Vergara will advance to second, and there you have it. The Hoppers get a run after the error, as the throw was not great from third to first. The first baseman forced to stretch out for it, and the ball gets past him into the outfield. Luis Vergara has a single and advances to second. And that was, I don't know if you want to count that as a single or an error, because I think he probably would have beaten the throw anyways, but he definitely did not make it to second. It was definitely not a double. I'm going to count it as a single, but if it was an error, it wouldn't surprise me. And this is Dom Oliverio at the plate. So 1-1 score now for the Hoppers with a runner remaining on second, but now it's Vergara instead of Baxter, and Dom Oliverio will foul that one off right away for an 0-1 count to him. Oliverio was thrown out in his first at-bat. And that's a swing and a miss. Check swing there falls over the plate. So an 0-2 count here to Oliverio. And that pitch is inside and low for a ball. 1-2 the count now to Oliverio. Like I said, 2 outs on the board, and Luis Vergara at second base, who had the RBI just a moment ago. That pitch is just outside. Good height on it, but a tad bit outside. A good framing job there from the catcher. Made it look a little tempting, but 2s are wild here. Second time we've seen that today in the top of the third inning. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, and how about a runner on second base? Dom Oliverio at the plate, and the pitch to him, how will it go? It's a check swing, and it is, and he'll be sent on a strikeout. Creasy's third of the day. And they do count that Vergara single as an error, so that will be an error, but an RBI nonetheless. And the Hoppers do pick up a run there off of the error. And 1-1, or 1-2-1, I should say, is your score. Hoppers 1, Railroaders 1, and we move to the bottom of the first inning as the Hoppers try to keep the score where it is and the Railroaders try to take back the lead. We will be right back with more Hoptown Hopper baseball on Hoptown Hopper TV. We are back here in the bottom of the third inning as the Railroaders now up to bat, and we will start things off at the top of their lineup. Tassos Foster, the shortstop, is up to bat. The current score is Hoppers 1, Railroaders 1 after the last 2 innings, or last 2 half innings, should I say, both resulting in 1 run. Foster struck out in his first at-bat, the first of the Railroaders' day in the first inning. And that is immediately hit to Estrada in right field. And he tries to, that inside, or should I say shallow right field, does allow for the right fielder to try to throw runners out at first base. And Carter Hood there almost getting in the way of the throw because, I mean, you're not used to that in most fields. So, you know, you want to follow the ball out there a little bit. Robert Estrada nearly gets him. He has a huge arm. Nearly gets him at first, but does not. So a single there from Tassos Foster. And that pitch is a strike to Bennett Detrude, the center fielder, the lefty batter. And he'll check up on Foster at first base, but not too much success. And Bennett Detrude, I believe, flew out, if I'm correct, in his first at-bat. And Foster was checked up on again. He's still safe. That time, though, he has to dive. Oh, 1 count to Detrude. Make it 0-2. So that was a pretty fastball right down the middle, but too much speed, and Detrude leaves the bat on his shoulder. So an 0-2 count to Bennett Detrude, a runner on first base. No outs on the board here in the bottom of the third for the Fulton Railroaders. And that is a hard foul into the forest here behind the third base side. 0-2, the count remains the same for Detrude. And that is a high pitch for a ball. 1-2 now, the count. One-two count to Detrude, a runner on first base. No outs on the board here. And the pitch, no, he'll check up on Detrude once again, Ginnivan does. So that's his third time shooting it over to first base. So back at the at-bat here, hopefully a pitch gets thrown. I think Foster's probably good at first. And another strikeout there as the swing and a miss from Detrude will sit him down, and that'll be Ginnivan's 5th of the day. Gave up a hit in the first at-bat, doesn't make the same mistake twice. And so that'll be the first out here in the bottom of the third. Don't know why I second thought that one. Another strikeout, that one to Bennett Detrude, and now Garner Anderson, who struck out in his first at-bat in the first inning to end things there, is back up at the plate. And that's an outside pitch. No, they're going to call that a strike. So that's the second time that one of those outside pitches that are probably not strikes gets called a strike. The pitcher here maybe needing to take that into account throughout this game, as this umpire seeming to like that outside pitch. And that ball hit well towards right field, but not well enough. Robert Estrada finds it, grabs it, and actually almost throws it to first base as he is close to there. So that'll be the second out here in the bottom of the third, as that ball, if it were to go a little bit farther, probably would have been a home run in the shallow right field. 2 outs now, and Jackson Garrett, who had a single in his first at-bat in the second inning, got things started for Fulton there and ended up being their lone run scored. Is at the plate now with a runner on first, 2 outs on the board. I want to say he was facing an 0-2 count before he got that hit. And a pitch there called a strike. Looked about right as far as left to right's concerned, but a little low. Called a strike nonetheless. So an 0-1 count here for Jackson Garrett. And that pitch fouled right behind home plate. So an 0-2 count here to Garrett, the first baseman, trying to keep the inning alive for the Railroaders and not strike out and be back-to-back, or not back-to-back strikeouts, but 2 strikeouts here in the 3rd inning. And there is a runner on first base, and that is Tassus Foster, who had a single to lead things off here. And speaking of it, they'll shoot it over there. By they'll, I mean Brady Ginnivan, who's checked up on Foster 4 or 5 times now at first base, just making sure to keep him on his toes. And when I say keep him on his toes, those toes need to be pointed at first and not second base, according to Ginnivan, as he is keeping Foster from stealing here. The pitch is outside and high for a ball. 1-2 the count now to Jackson Garrett. And the pitch is just outside. Looked about right as far as height was concerned, but a little bit outside. And now we're seeing the 2s go wild for the 3rd time in this contest. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. And Jackson Garrett at the plate, 1 runner on, being at first base, and Ginnivan trying to get out. And that ball hit almost as perfect as the ball from earlier. The runner will advance to third base. And Robert Estrada with a good throw to third base, but it's not quick enough. And runners now are in the corners as Jackson Garrett gets his 2nd hit of the day. And if it weren't for this shallow right field, he'd have 2 doubles. Instead, he has 2 singles. Jimmy Manzella, the right fielder, now at the plate. Manzella flew out in his first at-bat, will immediately hit that one foul over the Hoppers bullpen for an 0-1 count. 2 outs on the board, but runners on the corners as Tassos Foster threatening to score the 2nd run of the game for Fulton. And Manzella trying to bat him in. And he'll swing and miss there for a strike. So 0-2 count. Back-to-back batters here facing 0-2 counts. The last one got the single, big single that sent Foster to third. Ginnivan trying to leave the runners where they are. And a strike there, and that's a pretty pitch to Manzella, and he knew it. He's walking back to the dugout, and another strikeout there for Ginnivan, who's pitching very well today. His 6th of the day, I want to say. And we will move to the top of the 4th inning, but before we do that, I want to give a quick run through of our sponsors for today's broadcast and the Hopper season sponsors. Jones Brothers, White's Auto Mall, Chick-fil-A, Huggard, Beard and Giles, Planters Bank, Oak Grove Racing and Gaming, the City of Hopkinsville, Penny Ryle Electric, HWEA, Charlie Henderson State Farm, WHVO, Bikes and More, All Clean Services, Higgins Insurance, and then Super Lawn and Garden. Those are the Hopper season sponsors. Thank you to you all for making the season go smoothly for the Hoppers. We will be right back in the top of the 4th. Short break here with more Hoptown Hoppers TV. We are back in the top of the fourth inning, and starting things off for the Hoppers will be Carter Hood, who flew out in his first at-bat today. We'll watch that one go by for a strike right down the middle. That pitch hit to the third baseman, who's already had one error today, trying not to make it two, and he doesn't. Easily thrown out at first as Carter Hood for the first out of the fourth inning. And that will bring up Robert Estrada, who walked in his first at-bat today. Estrada here, the first pitch to him is outside for a ball. 1-0 the count to Robert Estrada, who getting some more work today in right field. Has already had to make several throws in this shallow right field, but he has a good arm. And that's a low pitch for a ball. 2-0 count now to Estrada, who, if he were to be able to walk here, would be the first runner on base in 2 innings for Hoptown. That pitch called a ball, was a tad bit high, and Estrada did not agree. 2-1 the count to Robert. 1 out on the board, no runners on. On deck is Luis Villalba. That pitch is right down the middle for a strike. So now 2 balls, 2 strikes, all evened up for Robert Estrada. And he'll try to fight and stay alive here in the top of the fourth inning. And he hits that one right down the middle. The shortstop will come up with it. Robert with a ton of speed. And ooh, man. They're going to say he was out, but man, it sure was close. And they're going to throw him out. They're going to throw him out. The first base umpire is going to limp over to E.J. Davari and throw out Robert Estrada. He threw out Robert Estrada. I'm assuming Estrada said something after he was called out there at first base. But Estrada sure was close. So Robert Estrada is gone, and E.J. Davari, the head coach, may also be gone. And the first base umpire will limp back over to where he was standing before that awful call, and we will return to the game. Oh, no, excuse me. Now he will limp to the home plate umpire. They'll chat it over and let everybody know that they threw out 2 people right there and after that play. So Robert Estrada's night is done, and if I had to guess who's going into right field, man, maybe Sam Perkins. That's the only person I can think of off the top of my head that would replace him out there. Robert Estrada is pretty much a every game player in the right field. And so the game will continue here. Luis Villalba up at the plate, and I would be curious to know what Estrada said to get himself thrown out. It doesn't look like Davari's been thrown out, as he is still chilling in the dugout. Definitely was warned. The umpire kind of chased him down. That was the umpire was chasing him down more than the coach was going after him. But I'm assuming Robert Estrada probably said some foul language that got him thrown. The outside pitch there to Luis Villalba. 1-0 count now to Villalba. And Villalba will hit that one. It's going foul. The first baseman, will run and make the catch. So a quick top of the fourth inning there after some theatrics. And we will head to the bottom of the fourth inning now. Actually, real quick before we do that, I kind of want to see who's going to go out to right field. So let me see here if I see someone new. There's Luis in left, and there's Steven in center. E.J. Davari will go out and chat with the home plate umpire now about the situation. And no, it's looking like it might be Tate Van Hooser. And I think it is. Tate Van Hooser, a first baseman now in right field, but he has good speed for his size, a bigger guy. But I will say he, in this shallow right field, won't have to run as much as normal right field. So putting someone with big hitting power into the lineup now with Tate Van Hooser playing in right field. We'll be right back with Uptown Hoppers baseball. We will return here in the bottom of the fourth inning. So Tate Van Hooser now taking over in right field after Robert Estrada is thrown out of the game after he says something to the first base umpire. The score remains Hoppers 1, Railroaders 1, as the last two half innings resulting in no runs scored. And starting off here for the Railroaders will be Jackson Norris, who has a single in this game. And the first pitch is immediately hit into shallow left field. Vergara will stroll in and make the catch. So a first pitch swing there for Norris will fly out to Luis Vergara and bring up Tanner Carranza, who has struck out in this game in his lone at-bat. First pitch to Carranza is a tad bit outside, called a strike. Good height on that, but this umpire seems to like some of those outside pitches. And so a 0-1 count to Carranza right away, the catcher for the Railroaders. The second pitch is outside and low and in the dirt. Villalba loses it. 1-1 count now with one out on the board. The pitch is right down the middle, maybe a tad bit high, but good enough for the umpire. So a 1-2 count now after that strike called for Carranza, trying not to be the lone batter to strike out twice so far in this game. And the pitch to Carranza is hit well towards right field, and it has a chance. And it will drop in. Van Hooser will bobble it, but that shallow right field hitting the net, dropping back in. Only a single for Carranza, who does not strike out. In fact, has a pretty good hit that in most fields would have been a double. Out here is a single, and they have a runner on base with only one out on the board. And Aiden Cloud, who had the big RBI double in the second inning of this ball game, is at the plate. And the ball there right away to Cloud. That pitch is hit towards left field. It's going to go foul, but Vergara trying to track it down. He does, and that'll be an out. The runner remains at first, and that's another fly out to the left. That one in foul territory. And Drew Baskin, who struck out in his first at-bat, will now step up to the plate. So Baskin here with a chance to advance the runners, but 2 outs on the board and a runner at first base. The Railroaders not in as good of a position as they'd probably like to be. And immediately that one's hit towards shallow right field. Carter Hood will go for it, and he easily fields it. And so a quick 4th inning on both sides will send us to the 5th inning, the top of which we will return in just a moment with more Hoptown Hoppers TV and Hoptown Hoppers baseball. We will be right back. And we are back here, top of the 5th inning. And here in the 5th inning, just now seeing the second at-bat for Manuel Villalobos, who struck out in this game. He was the beer batter for the Hoppers. He won these Fulton fans $3 beer when he struck out in the second inning of this game. So Villalobos here trying not to strike out and give them another inning of $3 beer, and would be the only batter to strike out twice in this game. He'll watch that one go by for a strike. 0-1 now the count for Villalobos. And that pitch way outside. Catcher does a good job of grabbing it though. Wouldn't have mattered, no one on base. So a 1-1 count to Villalobos. That's a high pitch inside to Manuel. 2-1 the count for Villalobos. Trying to get something started here in the 5th inning. This game moving pretty quick, but the score is tied 1-1. And that is a foul ball to even things up at 2 apiece. So Villalobos facing a 2-2 count. He fouls that one off hard right behind home plate to remain, or keep the count the same, should I say. And fighting here is Villalobos to not strike out back-to-back at-bats. And that one is called a strike, and it's a tad bit high, but a strikeout nonetheless. And Manuel Villalobos strikes out back-to-back at-bats, and he'll sit down after that one. So the first out of the inning here is for a strikeout, and that'll bring up Gavin Baxter, who has one of the 2 hits in this game, a single earlier in this. He also is the lone runner to score for the Hoppers, trying to keep the trend going here in the 5th inning. And he'll immediately swing on that one, and it's low to the second baseman, and he'll make the throw to first, but good contact there from Gavin, just not in the right spot on the first pitch swing. And that'll be 2 up, 2 down pretty quick with the strikeout and the throw to first to get Baxter. And we're back at the top of the lineup. Stephen Bell, the center fielder, who has been a very, very good hitter all year. Been out in both of his today. Immediately hits that one into left field. Foul territory, and the left fielder will come up with it almost the exact same way Vergara did in the last half inning. And so just like that, we move to the bottom of the 5th inning. Nothing in there. And the score remains Hoppers 1, Railroaders 1. And I want to take a quick moment to go through and thank our season sponsors. Once again, these are our Hoppers season sponsors and sponsoring the stream as well. Jones Brothers, White's Auto Mall, Chick-fil-A, Huggard Beard and Giles, Planters Bank, Oak Grove Racing and Gaming, City of Hopkinsville, Penny Ryle Electric, HWEA, Charlie Henderson State Farm, WHVO, Bikes and More, All Clean Services, Higgins Insurance, and Super Lawn and Garden. Those are your Hoptown Hoppers season sponsors. Thank you for making the summer go so smoothly. And we will return in just a moment. A quick break before the bottom of the 5th inning. We'll be right back. And we are back in the bottom of the 5th inning. Starting off things for the Railroaders will be number 2, Tassos Foster. Foster, of course, had a single in his last at-bat, struck out in his first, and is the leadoff hitter for the Railroaders today. And he'll watch a strike go by right away there for an 0-1 count right out of the gate. The second pitch here from Brady Ginnivan is a very pretty one. Finishes outside, but man, that danced across the front of the zone. And it could have been called a ball, but not exactly sure if it was a ball or a strike, but very nice pitch. 0-2 count for Foster. And he'll hit that one well towards right field. Van Hooser will try to get under it. And he does, makes the catch, and that'll be the first out here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Van Hooser replacing Robert Estrada in the right field after Estrada was ejected after he barely got thrown out at first base. Van Hooser, of course, normally a first baseman, finding himself playing in the shallow right field here in Fulton. So 1 out on the board now, and that'll bring up Bennett Detrude, who has not gotten anything done today, struck out in his last at-bat. And I'll immediately watch that one go by for a strike. I believe Detrude is the lone lefty batter in the lineup today for the Railroaders. I could be wrong about that, but he's the one I remember. And he's facing an 0-1 count right out of the gate. 1 out on the board and no one on base. And that's an outside pitch for a ball to even things up at 1 apiece. And the pitch is a strike right down the middle with some off-speed action there for a 1-2 count to Detrude. I will mention Ginnivan usually only going about 5 or 6 innings, but this game moving very quick. I assume his pitch count not very high. May see him go a little deeper tonight. That pitch is nice and no call to ball, tad bit low. And a 2-2 count now for Detrude. as I guess that pitch dipped just a little too low there, but it looked like it was going strike. And Luis Villalba agreed. Here the pitch is fouled off to the Railroaders bullpen area. Actually, it goes into the forest, the trees behind the Railroaders dugout, and the count will remain the same at 2 apiece, 1 out on the board. And that pitch is high and outside for the full count. I believe the first full count we've seen from Ginnivan today, who has yet to walk a batter. Has given up several hits, but has not walked a batter yet. And that is a strike right down the middle, and Trude knows it. A strikeout from Brady Ginnivan, and I want to say that is his 8th of the day. 7th or 8th. Brady Ginnivan pitching a great ball game so far. And that'll be the 2nd out of the inning. Garner Anderson now has a strikeout also in this game, has also not gotten anything done on offense today, the left fielder for the Railroaders. And that pitch is pretty, drops into the strike zone. 0-1 count from Ginnivan, who's just going to work today so far, I will say. Has only given up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits, but has not walked one. He has struck out 7 or 8. And a swing and a miss there on an outside pitch for an 0-2 count to Anderson. And 2 outs on the board as Ginnivan trying to not allow Fulton to get any runners on in the bottom of the 5th here. And that pitch in the dirt goes a little wild, but doesn't mean much considering there's no runners on base. So a 1-2 count now to Anderson with 2 outs on the board. And that pitch is high, and the 2s are wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. Garner Anderson at the plate, and no runners on base. And the pitch is outside for a ball, so back-to-back full counts now for Fulton facing off against Brady Ginnivan. Struck out his last one, has yet to walk a batter today. Probably doesn't want to change that now. Gonna try to get the strikeout or out here. Full count to Anderson, started off 0-2. And it pops up there towards the third base / shortstop area. It's looking like Artem Logvinov will come up with it, and so he does. And that will be the end of the 5th inning. And we will head to the top of the 6th inning as this game's moving quick. We will see the Hoppers get back up to bat, and we will see their 2, 3, and 4 hitters batting. We will be right back with Hoptown Hoppers TV and more Hoptown Hoppers baseball. We are back here, top of the 6th inning, and Artem Logvinov will come up to bat, the shortstop for the Hoppers. Logvanov has not been able to get anything done so far in this game, struck out in his last at-bat. And he'll swing and miss there. This is still Seth Creasy, the starter, pitching here in the 7th inning. And, you know, I want to say, looking at the Hoppers bullpen, there's some stretching going on, but I don't see any throwing. So, again, I've been looking to pitch the next inning, and that pitch called a strike. A little outside, but this umpire has liked that outside pitch all day. And that pitch is in the dirt and goes a little wild. So a 1-2 count now to Logvanov, who I believe faced a 1-2 count in his last at-bat before striking out. And Logvanov hits that one. It'll be fair to the third baseman, who makes the throw to first, and he does this time as well. So after making that error at first earlier, the third baseman, not letting it happen again, throws Logvanov out there for the first out of the top of the 6th inning and brings up Luis Vergara, who has the single and RBI in this game. The sole RBI, should I say, as the score does remain 1-1. Last run coming in the top of the 3rd. That pitch is inside for a strike. 0-1 the count, and I apologize if you get jump scared when someone walks across the camera. I kind of do too. They look a lot bigger on here than they actually are. 0-1 count for Vergara. And that's a high pitch. 1-1 now. And that pitch hit straight down the middle. The shortstop unable to come up with it. He slides, tries to go for it. Can't make it, and Luis Vergara will have a single and make his way to first base to have a runner on base for the Hoppers. I think he's one of the first runners in a while for the Hoppers. And now Dom Oliverio, who has struck out in his last at-bat, is now up to the plate. So Dom Oliverio here, 1 out on the board and a runner at first base. That's Luis Vergara. Dom Oliverio trying to turn his tide around. Has not been hitting great the last few games. Trying to get something here. And he'll immediately swing that one into the dirt, foul for an 0-1 count. And Oliverio swings that one, and it's well hit off of the netting, but it is going to stay fair. However, Luis Vergara will advance to third base, and a big hit there from Dom Oliverio, as there's now runners on the corners after that big single, which would have been a big double on any other field. I've said that a few times tonight, but this shallow right field is always interesting out here. And runners on the corners now. Not Tate Van Hooser, excuse me. Carter Hood at the plate now with a chance to bring in the second run of the day for Hoptown. Big hit there from Dom Oliverio. We were just waiting for it. That first pitch is in the dirt and wild, and Luis should have gone. He ended up staying at third. He thought that because the ball didn't get back to the backstop, he stayed. But in reality, he should have gone. The catcher, I think, thought the ball was under him. Luis definitely would have made it. So that is a tough break for the Hoppers, as that should have been the second run scored. And he stays at third base. I don't know if Coach Benny told him to stay or if he made the judgment call himself. But a tough break there for the Hoppers, especially if they can't score here. However, Dom Oliverio does advance to second base, so 2 runners in scoring position now instead of just 1. And that pitch fouled off by Hood. 1-1 count here to Carter Hood. 1 out on the board and runners at third and second base. Carter Hood here with a big opportunity. The infield is in to try to get that runner out at home. And that pitch in the dirt for a 2-1 count to Hood. Two won the count, 1 out on the board. 2 runners in scoring position. This is Carter Hood at the plate. And that pitch called a strike, but it's outside and high. The catcher standing up for that one outside, and it's still called a strike. So 2-2 count now for Carter Hood, trying not to strike out here. 1 out on the board. He'll have to fight. And he'll hit that one to the second baseman who makes the play at first, but Vergara will score. So Vergara still comes in, and the Hoppers take the lead at 2-1. This will bring up Tate Van Hooser, a big bat for the Hoppers, and Dom Oliverio is at third base. So this is Van Hooser's first at bat. Two outs on the board for Van Hooser. That's an outside pitch for a ball to him. And he's a guy who has a ton of power in that bat, looking to hit it into that shallow right field tonight, most likely. And he'll hit that one directly at the shortstop, and it gets past him. Van Hooser is safe, and the big single there from Tate Van Hooser will score Oliverio. And the Hoppers get another run in this game, excuse me. That was a big hit, ton of speed and a ton of power, and just too much for the shortstop to handle. He was in the right spot, but it bounces off of his glove and into the outfield, or barely into the outfield. He did still get it and try to make the throw to first, but it was too late. And now we see Luis Villalba at the plate. That pitch is low for a ball. So Van Hooser's at first base. The Hoppers have already scored 2 runs here in the top of the 6th. 2 outs on the board. Both of those runs coming with 2 outs. That pitch is high. I guess, I don't know if you want to call it that. The Vergara run came in on the second out. If you want to say that one was 2 outs or 1 out, I'm not sure. But that last one came with 2 outs for sure. And here's Luis Villalba facing a 2-0 count. And that pitch is called a strike. 2-1 now, the count to Villalba. And that pitch is fouled off to the Fulton dugout. So the 2s go wild now. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs with a runner on first base. That's Tate Van Hooser. And Luis Villalba's in the box, trying to extend the inning for Hoptown. Seth Creasy still the starting pitcher, trying to end it here. And that's a wild pitch in the dirt. Van Hooser will go to second, and he makes it there with no resistance. So Van Hooser is now in scoring position, and Villalba facing a full count. Villalba has already walked once today, and then I believe he flew out in his second at-bat. 3-2 count, 2 outs on the board, a runner at second, and Luis Villalba at the plate. And that's a high pitch, and Luis Villalba will walk it out. And he does. So Luis Villalba with his second walk of the day. And runners on first and second. And that will bring up Manuel Villalobos, who has struck out both times today. So a meeting at the mound now. They're probably going to call in a new pitcher, and they do. I see a new pitcher running in from the bullpen, so that's the end of Creasy's night. Creasy threw a pretty good game, only allowing three runs up to this point, but through those first 5 innings, only allowed 1, and that came off of an error. So Seth Creasy with a good outing tonight, but gives up some hits and walks there in the 6th inning to allow the Hoppers to get the lead, and he'll sit down in the dugout. So I'll let this new pitcher take some warm-up pitches, and I'll try to find the name. It's number 25, and we'll be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV in this short break. And we are back here, top of the 6th inning, and Miggy Villalobos at the plate. And Villalobos has struck out in both of his at-bats today. He is the beer batter for Fulton here. So if he strikes out, that's $3 beer for the inning for these Fulton fans. He sees a ball go past him there. So he's giving out discounts tonight so far in his 2 at-bats to the Fulton fans. $3 instead of $5 beer. Trying not to do the same here in the 6th inning with runners on second and first. And he fouls that one off right behind home plate for a 1-1 count. And that's an inside pitch for a ball. Now a 2-1 count to Villalobos, and I will mention, because I forgot to, the new pitcher for the Railroaders is a lefty, Diego Duque, or DK. I heard it said over the PA, but I couldn't get the exact pronunciation, but I believe it's Duque. And he's a lefty, so a different look for the Hoppers now. And that's an outside pitch for a 3-1 count to Villalobos as he threatens to walk and load the bases, which would be pretty big here as the Hoppers getting 2 runners on base with 2 outs on the board. And another run would be massive for a 3-run instead of a 2-run lead. But right now it's Villalobos at the plate with runners at second and first, and he's facing a 3-1 count. And he'll walk. No, they're going to call that a strike. And that was a low pitch called a strike. And so now we're seeing a full count here to Villalobos. Whereas that one, I've yet to really, I've said some are a little here, a little there, but that one definitely low. And called a strike nonetheless, so a full count being faced by Villalobos, trying not to strike out for 3 consecutive at-bats. We'll see what he does here. And that is a inside low pitch. And he stays and checks with the umpire just to make sure that that one wasn't a strike too. And he'll walk it out to first base, and he does. So loaded bases now, and Gavin Baxter at the plate. Baxter already has a single in this game. That coming in his first at-bat. I believe he was the first hit of the day for the Hoppers, and he was. So Gavin Baxter with a single, trying to score another run here. Tate Van Hooser on third base. Villalba on second, Villalobos on first. So he sees a strike go past him there. 0-1 the count now to Baxter. And that's an inside pitch there. Baxter gets out of the way for a 1-1 count now. And the pitch here is another inside low one that time. 2-1 now the count. If Baxter walks, that would walk a batter in, but Duque here trying not to let that happen. And that is hit to the third baseman, who loses it. It actually gets past him, and they're not only going to bring in Van Hooser, they're going to send in Villalba, and they do. Runners now advancing to third and second, and Luis Villalba with the speed there runs it in, and that's 2 more runs, not just 1 for the Hoppers, as the third baseman not able to keep up with the speed off the bat there from Gavin Baxter, and Baxter gets another hit. I'm going to assume that's not an error. It didn't touch anything on the third baseman. It's a huge double there from Baxter. Gavin Baxter, have yourself a day, young man. And we're sitting here third base, second base, 2 runners in scoring position. Stephen Bell at the plate. That's a strike looking right away. The Hoppers scoring 4 runs here in the top of the 6th. A absolutely massive inning for them. So they've been able to pretty much shut out the Railroaders up to this point, minus that run in the second. That pitch is low for a ball. So now a 1-1 count for Stephen Bell, the lefty. And I think he's the only lefty in the lineup today for the Hoppers. Facing off against Diego Duque with 2 runners in scoring position and 2 outs on the board. And that is a strike down the middle. Off speed there from Duque. A 1-2 count, 2 outs on the board. Stephen Bell has been out in all 3 of his at-bats today, trying to change that here and bat in Villalobos, who's sitting at third base. And that is a outside pitch. Looked good. See, I'll tell you what, this Fulton Railroaders catcher is a good framer. He's tricked me on a lot of these because I think that one looked like it was going out, but when I looked at the catcher, I mean, he framed it well. 2s are wild now, 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. Runners on third and second. Stephen Bell fighting to keep the inning alive for Hoptown and extend their lead. And Duque will take a step off the mound and take some time, get back into this at-bat right here. He's been working pretty quick ever since he got up, but has allowed, I believe, a walk and a hit in his first 2 at-bats. And that's outside wild pitch. Villalobos will head home, and he makes it with no protest. So that's another run. 5 runs here for Hoptown in the top of the 6th inning, and Gavin Baxter makes his way all the way to third base. Five big runs here for Hoptown, and they've extended this lead in the 6th inning. Up to this point, this game was moving really quick for both teams. But this 6th inning has been by far the longest. Stephen Bell facing a 3-2 count. And he'll hit that one, and it gets in the gap, and it does. And Stephen Bell with a big single that scores Gavin Baxter. That's 6 runs here in the top of the 6th inning. A lot of those, I believe 4 out of the 6 coming with 2 outs on the board. And Artem Logvinov, I believe, was the first batter we saw in this inning. He's back up to the plate. Two outs on the board, a runner at first now. And that's an inside pitch, a ball to Logvinov. And I'll tell you what, the Hoppers bats have come alive here, not only against the starter Creasy, but also against now the replacement in Duque. And they're hitting. That's a pitch, that's a strike. 1-1 the count now to Logvinov, who has not gotten on base today, has struck out once and I believe thrown out once and flew out once. The pitch here. No, they're going to check up on Bell at first, but actually some danger there as that ball nearly gets over the first baseman. And maybe some pressure being felt by the pitcher as the Hoppers able to stack up some runs here in the top of the 6th. And now the score 7-1 all of a sudden. That pitch low and outside for a ball. Logvinov here now facing a 2-1 count. 2 outs on the board, excuse me. And he'll foul that one back. So the 2s are once again wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. Stephen Bell's on first base, and Artem Logvinov is batting, trying to change his streak today. Has not been able to get a hit quite yet. Has not been on base. Most Hoppers batters up to this point have been on base, I think minus Hood and Logvinov. And Stephen Bell is thrown out at second, stealing, and that will end the top of the 6th inning for the Hoppers, but no fret. They scored 6 runs here in the top of the 6th inning. A huge inning for the Hoppers, and we will move to the bottom of the 6th inning as the Railroaders try to respond to that, and we will see Brady Ginnivan remaining on the mound in the 6th. We will be right back with Hoptown Hoppers TV and more Hoptown Hoppers baseball. And here we are. We're back here in the bottom of the 6th inning. The score now is Hoppers 7, Railroaders 1. The Hoppers with an absolutely massive top of the 6th inning with 6 runs scored to leave the score where it is. And Ginnivan remains on the mound here in the bottom of the 6th. And immediately one is hit well, very well to center field. That's a very good hit. And Stephen Bell actually trips. And I'll tell you what, that might be a triple. No, it's going to be a big double. And I didn't even get to tell you who that was. That was Jackson Garrett, man. He is having himself a day. Jackson Garrett with 2 singles now and a double. And that ball was hit incredibly deep directly to center field. And I'll take a gander here and tell you that the center field in Fulton County is probably the deepest in the league. That made it all the way back to the wall. Stephen Bell actually slipped, and probably a big reason for that is because no one goes back there. Probably a different feel, and a double there from Garrett to get the sixth started. And that is a ball thrown to Jimmy Manzella, who struck out in his last at-bat. And I'll tell you what, I'm worried about Brady Ginnivan coming in cold here because he went through 5 quick innings and then had to watch that long top of the 6th. So we shall see how he does here in the bottom. That is a pretty pitch, though, just a tad on the outside, but I believe it probably was a strike. And so a 1-1 count now for Manzella. No outs on the board and a runner at second base. And, man, I'll tell you what, we've seen a lot of hits into that netting over the right field, but that was the best hit of the game so far from Garrett. And that's a swing and a miss from Manzella. 1-2 now, the count to him. And that's another swing and a miss from Manzella, and Brady Ginnivan picks up his 8th strikeout of the game. And he has yet to walk a batter. I knock on wood here because I don't want to jinx it, but he is pitching a great game today. Has only allowed 1 run. Honestly, hasn't allowed any runs. That 1 run came off an error. No, it didn't. No, excuse me. No, it didn't. That was a hit. The Hopper's first run came off of an error. So Ginnivan has allowed 1 run, but hasn't allowed a single walk, has 8 strikeouts, and here he's facing Jackson Norris, who has a single in this game, so someone has proven they can hit off Ginnivan today at the plate now. And right away gets things started with a strike. 0-1 the count from Ginnivan. And the Hoppers do have a pitcher warming up now in the pen. Can't see him because the dugout's blocking me, but this might be Ginnivan's last inning. Davari does like to keep his starters out there for a maximum of 6. That pitch is swung on and missed from Norris, and that's an 0-2 count to him. And I almost want to say that his single earlier came on an 0-2 count. I could be wrong about that, but it sounds right in my head. So let's go with it and say he's already seen this today and got a hit. He flew out in his second at-bat, but it went to deep left. And another swing and a miss there. And Brady Ginnivan only getting better as this game goes along. Back-to-back strikeouts from Ginnivan, his 9th of the day as he approaches double digits. And 2 outs now on the board for the Railroaders as Jackson Garrett stranded at second base after the huge double he had to lead off the bottom of the 6th. And now we have Tanner Carranza, who started off his day with a strikeout but had a single in his last at-bat. And that pitch is pretty, but it's a little low for a ball, so 1-0 the count as it dropped just a tad bit too far. And here's Ginnivan. That pitch is high for a ball, so I don't know if Ginnivan has seen too many 2-0 counts today. If any, I can't remember any off the top of my head. I've seen a couple full counts, but I don't know if he's seen a 2-0 yet. So he'll have to fight to get back into this one and leave the runner at second and not walk his first batter of the day. 2 outs on the board, though. This is Tanner Carranza. He swings and misses there on the outside pitch. A pretty pitch there from Ginnivan. Has some movement on it, but is quick. Gets past Carranza, but he swings and misses. That ball, that would have been a ball if he didn't swing outside. And so now a 2-1 count for Carranza. 2 outs on the board and a runner at second base. And another swing and a miss there to get another strike, and that one also would have been a ball. And so Ginnivan just throwing today. He's having himself a start. And here he goes, looking at the 2s, wild, 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, a runner at second, and Tanner Carranza in the box. This is Brady Ginnivan looking to get out of the 6th inning. And he doesn't. That's outside for a ball, so another full count here for Ginnivan. Full count, 2 outs on the board, and a runner at second. You would rather give up the walk than the hit here, I presume. But I know Ginnivan, he's going to go for this strikeout. And he does. I mean, that guy is just having himself a day. That one dips back into the zone. It's off speed there, breaking ball, and it drops in. And a rough scene here for Fulton as they're watching Brady Ginnivan have his maybe best game of the year. 3 strikeouts, 3 outs here in the bottom of the 6th inning, and we're running up to the 7th inning. We will be right back with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. We will see you in the 7th. We are back here, top of the 7th inning action. Hoppers leading the Railroaders 7-1. 6 of those runs coming in the top of the 6th, one of which coming in the top of the 3rd. And starting things off will be Artem Logvanov, who started his at-bat in the last inning, but is able to get a refresh here as Stephen Bell was thrown out at second to end it. This is a new pitcher, Logan Wilsker, the lefty at the plate. Wilsker, I believe, pitched in the game against Hoptown at home, and he'll throw a strike to Logvanov to get his day started. So back-to-back lefties seen here after Diego Duque came in and threw a pretty poor inning while he was out there. That pitch will hit Logvanov, and Logvanov will take a stroll to first. He seems to, oh man, if that hit him, he's holding his knee area, which not where you want a ball to hit you, definitely not. But I think he's going to be all right. He's going to jog it off to first. And so Logvanov will start off for the Hoppers here in the top of the 7th at first base.
Now batting number 16, Luis Vergara.
Here's Luis Vergara at the plate, who had a single in his last at-bat. Also reached on an error earlier today, and I believe has scored, I think only once, but maybe twice. I'm not 100% sure. Runner at first base. And he'll watch that one for a strike. A pretty pitch there from Wilsker. And Vergara pummels that one about as high as it can go, and the shortstop will run in and try to make the catch, and he does. So an infield fly there from Luis Vergara will be the first out here in the top of the 7th, and will bring up Dom Oliverio, who had a big hit in the last inning. went into the right field netting and came back in fair, and he made his way to first base, but sent a runner to third and eventually scored himself. Runner at first and 1 out on the board. The first pitch to Oliverio is going to be swung on and missed. Off-speed pitch there to Oliverio for the first strike. He has struck out once today, but he also has that big single that we just talked about, and I believe he flew out in his other at-bat. And he'll hit that one, and it will get to the third baseman, who bobbles it and is not able to make the throw to first. And third baseman there, I think, was looking for that double play at second base with Logvinov, but was unable to get the throw off in time. And by the time he tried to make the throw to first instead, it was too late. So a runner now, as Oliverio lucks out there with a bobble from the third baseman, makes his way to first base on the error. And Logvinov, is at second. And this is Carter Hood at the plate. And I want to say he's the only batter today that has not made it on base, and I'm correct. And he watches that one. That one's inside, but it's going to get called a strike. And he hits that one, but it's going to be more high than it is deep towards left field. Left fielder gets under it and makes the catch for the second out. So a quick at-bat there for Carter Hood, and he'll sit down and bring up Tate Van Hooser, who had a big single in his first at-bat. Of course, he came into this game for Robert Estrada, who was thrown out early after, I believe, cursing after getting thrown out at first base. And he'll come in with a runner in scoring position, but 2 outs on the board. I will say 4 of the 6 runs in the last inning were scored with 2 outs on the board, so the Hoppers are familiar with this position. Tate Van Hooser is especially, and he immediately laces one to third base, but that one will land in the Fulton bullpen. So that is a 0-1 count to Van Hooser, who, if he finds the ball, it's hard to field unless it's flown straight to you. He has a ton of power in that bat. And that's an inside pitch there for a ball. 1-1 the count now. And Van Hooser, if he walks, will load the bases, but I can guarantee you he doesn't want to walk. He wants a hit. He'll swing. Here's the third pitch to him. He does swing. He'll miss there. A 1-2 count now to Van Hooser. 1-2 with 2 outs on the board and runners on second and first. Tate Van Hooser trying to keep the inning alive for Hoptown with his final strike and the team's final strike. And he will swing and miss, and that will do it here in the top of the 7th. 2 runners left, but the Hoppers go down swinging. No runs scored there after the big top of the 6th. And we will head to the bottom of the 7th as the Fulton Railroaders continue to try to chip their way back into this game. We will be right back with Hoptown Hoppers TV and more Hoptown Hoppers baseball. And we are back here in the bottom of the 7th inning. And folks still standing right in front of our camera, so we will hold it down here in the bottom of the 7th with the wide view until they sit down. And immediately popped up foul territory, and we'll go behind the building here. This is, let me check, as we can flip over now. We can check here. Aiden Cloud, the third baseman who had the massive double earlier in this game that allowed for the Railroaders to get their one and only run. He hits that one well to left field. Luis Vergara will spot it and make the catch, though. I'll tell you what, Cloud has some power in that bat, but not quite enough there, as he's the first out here in the bottom of the 7th. And that will bring up Drew Baskin, who has not been able to get anything done today, has one strikeout on the board. And I will mention Brady Ginnivan here in the 7th inning still pitching, so this is the longest we've seen a pitcher pitch all year for the Hoppers. And he'll foul that one off Baskin, and 0-1 the count. Oh-1 count here to Baskin. And that is a strike right down the middle. 0-2 count now from Ginnivan, who here in the 7th inning has not seemed to lose any velocity on his throws. And that pitch dips in, but a little bit outside and high, I believe, for a ball. So a 1-2 count now, 1-2. One out on the board to Baskin, no runners on base. And that is a strike whether he swung or not. And that will sit down Baskin for the second out here in the bottom of the 7th and for Brady Ginnivan's 11th strikeout. And now Tassos Foster. This has to be a Greek name, I would assume. Tassos sounds very Greek, very cool first name. The shortstop here with a single and a strikeout. We'll watch that one go, and it's inside for a ball, so a 1-0 count to Foster. I will say Tassos, a very Greek first name. Foster, not so much for the last name. And a swing and a miss there from Foster will be the first strike here in his count. 1-1 now, the count to him. That that pitch is low for a ball. 2-1 the count, 2 outs on the board, no runners on. And Foster fighting to keep the inning alive for Fulton. That pitch is hit well to right field, and Van Hooser can't see it. It comes off. Van Hooser will fire it into second base. And no, they're going to say he's safe at second, and that's just not the case. There's no chance he was safe there. And it was probably a smart move to make the run to second because, that throw to second probably wasn't expected. Most of those end up being singles in the right field. But, man, there's nothing better you can do there if you're Van Hooser other than catch the ball. But he lost it, and it did hit the wall. I don't think he would have been able to catch it. But, man, that runner was out at second base. Oh, man. And they're going to meet up on the mound with Ginnivan. And I assume they're not going to take him out after that. I mean, he just struck out a batter. But, man, that is a brutal, brutal call at second, man. Brutal. That might be the hardest I've ever reacted to a missed call this season. Man, that was brutal. And they're going to call him safe at second. Man, that is insane. He was 100% out there. Carter Hood had that ball while he was halfway to second, and the tag was a tad bit closer, but I don't think there was a doubt about it, man. And they're going to chat it up here on the mound. 2 outs on the board, and I assume they're not going to take Ginnivan out, but they might. And I don't think they will. I think Ginnivan stays. So Coach E.J. Davari will walk back to the dugout after that atrocious call by the third base umpire. I mean, he ought to be fined and sanctioned for that one. That's look, we see these home plate umpires get a lot of heat. I think the home plate umpire has been okay today. Not perfect. For the most part, has been all right. And a couple missed calls for both teams. That call from the third base umpire should probably get your license taken away. So 0-0 count now. We're looking at Bennett DeTrude, who struck out in both of his last 2 at-bats. He'll foul that one off right away. 0-1 count to him. And, man, I just can't get over that call. I'm trying to figure out who this is pitching for the Hoppers in the bullpen. Can't quite see him. That pitch is fouled directly behind into the fence. So 0-2 count now to DeTrude. And I would guess even if Ginnivan gets a strikeout here, this will probably be his final inning, as no starters have seen 7 innings this season until now. And Davari does not like to pitch his starters this long. And that pitch is fouled once again from DeTrude. So DeTrude fighting and staying alive here and keeping the count where it is at 0-2. And 2 count here. 2 outs on the board and a runner at second. Excuse me, I didn't even mark him down. I was too busy being angry about the call. Didn't even mark him down. And that is another foul. So 4 back-to-back fouls here for Bennett DeTrude, who's doing his best not to strike out once again. Has struck out in both of his at-bats today. And here he's fighting to not let that happen again. 0-2 the count to him. Fouling off 2 with fouling off 2 with an 0-2 count already. And there's a swing and a miss, and the ball doesn't lie as DeTrude will sit down, and so will the runner at second. And we will move to the top of the 8th inning as Brady Ginnivan gets his 12th strikeout. And assuming that is his final out of the day, that's 12 strikeouts with not a single walk and 7 innings with only 1 run allowed. So assuming that Ginnivan is done, he had an absolutely fantastic day. His best day of the year, probably. I'm not even going to say probably. The best starting outing we've seen from the Hoppers this season tonight from Brady Ginnivan. And we will be right back in the top of the 8th as the Hoppers are back up to bat. And we will see their 7, 8, and 9 batters. We will be right back with Hoptown Hoppers TV and more Hoptown Hoppers baseball. We are back here, top of the 8th action in Fulton, as the Hoppers continue to bat here in the top of the 8th, currently nursing a 7-1 lead and trying to extend that lead. We're going to be starting off with Luis Villalba, who has walked twice today. Has not gotten a hit yet, but on base twice. Trying to get on base once again here in the 8th inning. This is Drew Davis, the new pitcher for Fulton, and he'll throw a outside wild pitch there to get things started for his day. We've seen 2 pitchers come in now and only pitch 1 inning. And I'm assuming Will Skird, the left-handed pitcher who pitched the last inning, is a 1-inning pitcher because he pitched well and only pitched 1. And Davis now coming in the 8th. And that pitch is a strike. Whether Villalba swung or not does not matter. 1-1 the count now to Luis. And he'll foul that one off into the fence here. Not a net behind home plate here, it's a fence. Very neat stadium they have. I came here last year as well, but probably the most unique stadium in all of the league, not to mention that shallow right field, but the all wooden building here and seating is very neat. And Villalba will foul that one off as well to keep the count where it is at 1-2. And here is the pitch. 1-2 the count to Villalba. And he will hit that one, and it's well hit, and it'll hit the wall. And he's going to, I was about to say, I hope he doesn't try to go to second. He gets the big single to get things started here in the top of the 8th. Luis Villalba has reached base 3 times now with a single, hits the wall in right field. Bringing up Miggy Villalobos, who has struck out twice today but walked in his last at-bat. There's a low pitch for a ball for his first pitch seen from Davis. A runner on first base, that's Luis Villalba. And there's a slow pitch right down the middle. Villalobos will watch it go. 1-1 count now to Villalobos. And that is popped straight up. The first baseman will run in and make the play for the out. So a slow, not even very high pop up there from Villalobos for the first out here in the top of the 8th will bring up Gavin Baxter, the 9-hole hitter who has a single and a double today. And I believe he's the only batter with 2 hits. Let me check. Stephen Bell has 1, Logvinov none, Luis Vergara 1, Oliverio 1, Hood none, Van Hooser 1, Villalba 1, Villalobos none, Gavin Baxter 2 hits today. So Gavin Baxter, the top hitter, and he'll try to go for a bunt, and he lays one down. The pitcher will grab it, and he'll make the out at first base. Bunt had good speed on it, but it went a little too far. And so Luis Villalba will advance to second, but Gavin Baxter is out at first. And that'll bring up Stephen Bell, the leadoff hitter for the Hoppers. He has a single today in his last at-bat. Previous to that, had been out on all 3. 1 for 4. And he'll watch that one go by. And that looked a tad bit outside, but it's called a strike. Close enough to get the call. 0-1 count to Bell. And Bell will pop that one up to shallow left field. The left fielder will come in and make the play. And that'll do it as Luis Villalba is stranded on second base. And we will move to the bottom of the 8th inning. As apart from that top of the 6th, this has been a pretty quick ball game. We will be right back in the middle, or not middle, excuse me, bottom of the 8th with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. And we are back in the bottom 8 of the 8th inning. And like I mentioned, Brady Ginnivan's night is finished. Coming in to at least relieve the 8th, maybe relieve both 8th and 9th, is Cody Jones. And so I don't know who's taller, Jones or Ginnivan. Probably about the same height. I was worried about losing Cody's head over the top of the camera here. Cody Jones coming in for Brady Ginnivan. And let me just tell you, Brady Ginnivan, 12 strikeouts today, not a single walk. And I think, let me count how many hits he allowed, not too many. Only 7, but of course that big double from Tassos Foster should have been out. So I'll say 6 and be nice. 7 actual on the scoreboard, on the score cards you'll see 7, but I'm gonna use some common sense and tell you probably 6. So a giant night from Brady Ginnivan, only allowing 1 run, and he had himself a night. So props to Brady Ginnivan. Best starting performance we've seen this year from the Hoppers. And now Cody Jones coming in the 8th, going to try and keep the score where it is. This Fulton team itching for more runs, have not scored since the bottom of the 2nd inning. And they're going to start things off with Garner Anderson, the left fielder, who has not gotten anything done today, has struck out once with 2 outs after that. But after him is Jackson Garrett, who's had a hit in every single one of his at-bats, the lone guy who could read what Brady Ginnivan was doing all night. Cody Jones will start his day off with a strike, though. And a swing and a miss there from some speed with Cody Jones. 0-2 count now. Cody Jones, last 2 appearances has been reliever. Started this year as a starter, but struggled in his appearances. Maybe finding a better rhythm now. And that is hit towards the third baseman, Baxter, who will make the throw to first, and he does for the out. The first out here in the bottom of the 8th. And that'll bring up Jackson Garrett, who has had a fantastic day. 3 for 3 in this ball game. 2 singles and a double. And he has had just a fantastic day. And Cody Jones going to try to get him here. I believe also the only lefty batter in the lineup, so that could be a big reason for it, hitting better off the righties. And he will immediately hit a home run. That is a home run from Jackson Garrett. And you know what? For that, you got to give it up. I forget they let the train sound go off here in Fulton for that big home run. And you know what? You got to give it up for that young man. He has had a fantastic day. No, I mean, he's a triple off of the cycle. You want to talk about how good of a day Brady Ginnivan had. The only man out here that could challenge him for his title is Jackson Garrett, who has been absolutely fantastic. And this is number 19, a new batter, and I didn't catch his name. but coming in for Jimmy Manzella. Jimmy Manzella struck out in his last 2 at-bats, so they brought in a new batter. Jones throws a ball there right away. So the score is now Hoppers 2, Hoppers 7, Railroaders 2. Bit of a tongue twister there after the big home run from Garrett. There's a strike thrown from Jones. And you know what, I don't like to be too complimentary of, opposing teams, but Jackson Garrett, probably the best hitting day of the season I've seen from any opposing player, as that's hit directly to Jones, who will run it out to first base and get the out. The underhanded throw and an easy one there. 2 outs now in the bottom of the 8th. As that'll bring up Jackson Norris, the designated hitter, who has a single in this game. That came in his first at-bat, but was also struck out. And no, actually Norris also a lefty, so I thought Garrett was the lone lefty. I wasn't paying close enough attention. Norris also a lefty, and here he is facing 2 outs, no runners on, but they have already picked up 1 run today. And that's a high pitch for a ball to Norris. And a swing and a miss there for the strike. And that's a foul ball there off the fence for a 1-2 count to Norris with 2 outs on the board. And that's going to go to left field, and Luis Vergara is going to try to track it down in foul territory, and he does. No, actually, he does not. That's a dropped ball. And I think he just tried to play it a little lazy, catch it at his waist instead of above his head. And it's foul as Luis Vergara drops it there. Wow, I thought he came up with it. A very consistent player there, making a mistake. And if Norris is able to get it hit here, that'll be a mistake you'd like to have back. 1-2, the count remains the same, as we should be heading to the top of the 9th, but instead the bottom of the 8th will continue. And he will hit that one high to the first baseman, Villalobos, who will make the catch. And so that's the 3rd out. We will go to the top of the 9th inning, where the Hoppers get their final shot to add some insurance runs to their lead. And we will be right back. But actually, first, let me go through the Hoptown Hopper season sponsors for the last time today. Hoptown Hopper season sponsors are Jones Brothers, White's Auto Mall, Chick-fil-A, Huggard Beard and Giles, Planters Bank, Oak Grove Racing and Gaming, the City of Hopkinsville, Penny Ryle Electric, HWEA, Charlie Henderson State Farm, WHVO, Bikes and More, All Clean Services, Higgins Insurance, and Super Lawn and Garden. Those are your Hoptown season sponsors. Thank you so much for sponsoring the Hoppers this summer. We will be right back in the top of the 9th inning with more Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. And we are back here, top of the 9th inning action. The Hoppers lead the Railroaders 7-2. Trying to tack on some more insurance runs here is Artem Logvinov, the leadoff hitter in the 9th. as he'll watch a strike go by a little low there. The second pitch called a strike. So an 0-2 quick count to Logvinov. And that pitch is hit to left field, but the left fielder will come up with it. Good contact there, but just not going to the right spot. And Logvinov will sit down with the first out of the 9th inning, and that'll bring up Luis Vergara. Vergara with a single already today, has already reached on an error as well. And this is still Drew Davis on the mound, who came in the 8th inning, finishing this game out. If this is the final inning, that is, finishing this game out for the Railroaders. And that pitch is super inside, barely missing Luis Vergara as he tries to get out of the way of it. 1-0 the count. 1 out on the board and no runners on. And that pitch is straight down the middle for a strike to even things up at 1 apiece. And I'm swinging a miss on the high off-speed pitch there for the second strike of the count. A 1-2 count now to Vergara with 1 out on the board. No runners on base. And he'll foul that one off into the fence. 1-2 counts. The count remains, excuse me. And it actually looks like Mac Biggs is on deck. So Biggs coming in for Dom Oliverio as your DH here in the 9th inning. No matter what, he will get an at-bat. And that's an outside pitch for a ball to even things up at 2 apiece to Vergara. That pitch called a ball as well. So a full count here to Luis Vergara. And that pitch is called a strikeout, and it was dropped in. Luis tried to lean in, actually. And a strikeout there for Davis for the second out of the inning. And that will bring up Mac Biggs, who has a ton of power, is a hitter who does strike out and likes to swing. But when he gets that bat on the ball, it goes deep. And here he's getting what may be his lone at-bat of the day as your DH in this game in the 9th inning. Two outs on the board, no runners on. And this is Mac Biggs at the plate. And he will swing a hard swing and miss for the first strike. 0-1 count to Biggs, who is all or nothing right now. He's going to go for it. 2 outs on the board, no runners on in the top of the 9th inning. Why not? And he will. He'll line that one to third base, who will make the throw. And the throw is made on the split by the first baseman. So 3 up, 3 down from the Hoppers here in the top of the 9th inning will send us to the bottom of the 9th, where the Railroaders will have a chance to walk things off or tie things up. And we will be right back when the Railroaders get that chance in the bottom of the 9th. And with Hoptown Hoppers baseball on Hoptown Hoppers TV. And here we are in the bottom of the 9th inning, final 3 outs for the Fulton Railroaders, who are trying to fight back in this game, down 7-2 to your Hoptown Hoppers. And one of those runs came in the last inning when Jackson Garrett hit a big solo home run. And the other run came in the bottom of the 2nd inning, all the way back then. You know what? I believe Garrett was also involved in that. So here's Tanner Carranza, who has 2 strikeouts and a single today. And that's a high pitch to get things started off to him. Cody Jones remains on the mound for Hoptown here in the 9th inning. We'll likely try to finish things off with him. If he does struggle, they probably will have a closer come in. And another high pitch there from Jones. And that pitch is a strike. Inside strike there, 2-1, the count to Carranza. That's another high pitch for the 3rd ball of the count, 3-1. The count now, 3 high balls, all accounting for those balls. And Jones trying not to walk a batter here. If I'm correct, the Hoppers have not walked a single batter today, trying not to start now. And he won't, as that one's fouled off. A big swing from Carranza to fill up the count at 3-2. Would have been a strike if it landed in the catcher's glove anyway, but a big swing there from Tanner Carranza. And it goes foul. 3-2 the count now, no outs on the board. And a swing and a miss, a late swing. That would have been another ball, and Carranza nervous swings there. A late swing for the first out and a strikeout for Cody Jones here for the first out in the 9th inning. So 2 more outs for the Fulton Railroaders. And coming up to the plate now is Aiden Cloud, who has been out in his last 2 at-bats, but in his first at-bat hit the big double in that bottom of the 2nd inning where he scored the runner. And he'll immediately nearly get hit by an inside high pitch from Jones. I think, honestly, the height of that pitch kind of saved Cloud, as if it were a little lower, probably would have hit him. That pitch swung on and missed to even things up at 1 apiece. And I'll tell you what, when Cody Jones can find the strike zone, he's hard to hit off of. Unless you're Jackson Garrett, of course, who is just an incredible hitter. And that one fouled off towards the Fulton dugout for a 1-2 count. 1 out on the board and no runners on base. And that is hit to center field. Stephen Bell's going to get under it and make the catch, and he does. Stephen Bell there with the 2nd out of the inning. And on to their last out here are the Fulton Railroaders, who now coming up to the plate. Probably not someone they like to be their final out. Drew Baskin, who has struck out twice today, and in his other at-bat was either thrown or flew out. So here with the final out for the Railroaders, Baskin is going to have to show some heroics and get on base in the bottom of the 9th. That first pitch is low for a strike. 0-1 the count. Oh, 1 the count, 2 outs and no runners on base. And the second one is hit directly at the first baseman, and he will step on the base, and that'll end the game. Your Hoptown Hoppers win this one 7 to the Fulton Railroaders 2. 6 of those runs coming in the top of the 6th as the pitching staff, which is just Brady Ginnivan and Cody Jones, coming out and pitching a fantastic game for the Hoppers, not allowing a single walk all night. And that is a big win for Hoptown on the road to make their record 12-15. And that is all for tonight's broadcast on Hoptown Hoppers TV. Thank you for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe if you aren't already. The Hoppers will return to action on Sunday. And let me pull my schedule out real quick because I can't quite remember where. It will be Muhlenberg on Sunday. So we will be right back here on Hoptown Hoppers TV, and that game should start at 6:30, so make sure to tune in. And then the Hoptown Hoppers will be back at home on Monday. Thank you for watching. This has been Ethan Alexander with Hoptown Hoppers TV. Go Hoppers.